Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies. And today, I am in a different setting again because it is January 1st. Actually, right now, technically, it is already January 2nd of 2022. And I'm in a new setting now, and this is going to be the room I'm going to be living in for the next 3 months of my life. And this city I'm in right now, Los Angeles, is going to be a place that I'm going to live in for the next few years of my life. So this is the beginning of the next volume of my life. And so this is a new year that is newer than any other new years I've ever experienced. But anyways, you know what? It's long overdue. I'm sorry. I really wanted to make this video as early as possible, but I just can't because I just didn't have time. But finally, best movies of 2021. I'm gonna try to keep it down actually because it's 1:34 a.m. in the morning right now, and I don't want to wake up the the host of this house. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the honorable mentions. I'd like to say that 2021 has been an amazing year for movies. So, honorable mentions. First off, I'd like to mention Last Night in Soho, which is Edgar Wright's foray into psychological horror. I don't think it is a perfect movie, but I think certainly Edgar Wright has tried. He still has his touch of fun edits. The story and the premise is really cool, and I think it has a lot of potential. And then we have Bad Trip, which is a prank movie featuring Eric Andre and Little Ray Howery. That is his name. I messed up his name a few times in my reviews. Okay, I'm getting it right finally. Little Ray Howery and Tiffany Haddish. And this is not like your average prank movie. This movie is packed with pranks, and it is very eventful. It is also very, very funny. Eric Andre is absolutely fantastic in the movie, and I laughed out loud several times. Up next, we have No Time to Die, which is the latest James Bond movie. And even though I don't think it is perfect, I think it is a beautiful send off for Daniel Craig. Afterwards, we have a documentary by the name of All Light Everywhere, which is a really gorgeously and fancily edited documentary that's like a video essay. I mean, this is a gorgeous documentary. And watching this documentary is like reading a very fancy and layered and complex academic essay in MLA format. It's just really freaking good. And it is about surveillance, it is about policing, and it's pretty cool. Up next, we have the Bo Burnham Netflix comedy special Inside, which became a bit of a thing of talked about in the year. It is about quarantine, it is about the pandemic, it is about politics, it is about lots of personal issues, and Bo Burnham brings his musical talent into it, which is really nice. I don't think it is as great as some people say it is, but it is still pretty good. Pig is another movie that I have to mention. I really like how simple and straightforward the premise is. Nicolas Cage totally kills it as the main character, and overall, it is a damn good movie. And then we have A Quiet Place Part 2, which I think is a very good and solid sequel to the first one. It's scary, it works. And then finally, I'd like to mention Memoria by Thai director Apichatpong Weerasetakul. Hopefully, I'm not mispronouncing it, even though I probably am. And this is a very strange, low fantasy, eerie, atmospheric, slow burn of a movie with a great performance by Tilda Swinton and an immaculate sound design. All right, here goes the incredibly difficult to pick top 20. Also, there are a couple films that are released this year, but I will not be including in this list. And maybe I'll include in next year's list. And primarily the reason is because it won't actually be widely released until 2022. And these two films are The Worst Person in the World, as well as the documentary, the Hong Kong documentary, The Revolution of Our Times. All right, at number 20, we have a movie that has been delayed but is finally released, and that is Yi Miao Zhong, or 1 Second, by legendary Chinese director Zhang Yimou. And Zhang Yimou's filmography is a bit of hit and miss, a bit of a mix between that, because sometimes he would make movies, period films that he's legitimately passionate about, and then he would be making period films as well, but this time it's for money. It's mainstream, dumb period films. And clearly, 1 Second is the former. Clearly, this is the cinema paradiso of Zhang Yimou, and because the film is set in the Cultural Revolution era of recent Chinese history, the film was actually pulled from Berlin Film Festival last year, thus the delay of the release, which is really sad because now a small part of the movie, or maybe a huge part of the movie, is changed or censored. I don't know. But regardless, I love Chinese period films. It's clear that Zhang Yimou put a lot of passion into it, and overall, it is just a love letter to filmmaking as well as fatherhood. At number 19, we have one of the most gut-wrenching documentaries I've ever seen, and it is In the Same Breath by Chinese documentary filmmaker Wang Nanfu. And this is gut-wrenching, and that's mainly because this is a documentary about how the Chinese government and how the American government handled the coronavirus pandemic. Finally, about time, a damn good documentary about the pandemic happens, and this is the documentary in question. And yeah, it is sad. And this documentary is way more emotionally intense than I expected it would. At one point, I almost cried watching it. It's just that bitter of a documentary. At number 18, I'm giving it to, for something more lighthearted, I'm giving it to The Suicide Squad by James Gunn, which is the revamp and the sequel to 2016's absolutely horrible nightmare, Suicide Squad. This one, The Suicide Squad, is so much more fun. The characters are quirkier, the punchlines and the jokes are snappier, the action sequences are so much more entertaining. The movie is so tight-paced, it's very refreshing, and I'm honestly really happy about it. I'm really happy that DC finally has such a freaking awesome movie in its label, and by DC I mean DCU, and everybody's freaking awesome in this movie. Idris Elba, of course, we have Mr. Bing Chilling himself in this movie, and even Margot Robbie's character, Harley Quinn, is not as annoying as she was in her previous movies as Harley Quinn. At number 17, we have the incredibly artsy The Tragedy of Macbeth by amazing director Joe Cohen. I have to check here because I have my laptop like right beside me and I'm looking at my letterbox, my list of movies. But yeah, The Tragedy of Macbeth is basically Joe Cohen's attempt at Macbeth, and countless filmmakers have attempted this classic Shakespearean story many times. And again, I have to admit, Macbeth is my personal favorite because in Form 4, I played Macbeth, the main character. Yes, me. And that's the only time I've played a main character in a drama. Black and white, great cinematography, aspect ratio, obviously good shit right there. Great script, great acting, A-list cast. I mean, Frances McDormand and Denzel Washington totally killing it, and just a really great modern take on the classic Shakespeare. At number 16, I'm sorry to disappoint you if you're a huge art house fan, but Spider-Man No Way Home. Marvel's Phase 4 has been quite disappointing thus far, other than the miniseries Loki, which is getting a season 2. But lately, I have watched Spider-Man No Way Home, which is awesome. And I think partially it's because I watched this movie in a theater for the first time outside of Hong Kong. I watched a movie in a theater for the first time outside of Hong Kong, my home. So, it's a pretty novel experience for me. I think it is very fun. There are a lot of epic moments. The nostalgia baiting actually works. Willem Dafoe is absolutely stellar in this movie. Alfred Molina. And I'm not going to talk about the spoilers, but it's just so much fun. It is snappy, it is quick, it is entertaining, it is to the point, and it is a legitimately enjoyable experience. All right, at number 15, it is The Power of the Dog by Jane Campion, where she basically deconstructs the genre of the Western and remake it into something more interesting and new and with a more modern take. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie and he is fantastic. And of course, we have to mention Johnny Greenwood's amazing score in this movie. And a little bit later in this video, he's going to show up again. All right, at number 14, we have The French Dispatch by Wes Anderson. This is as Wes Anderson can ever get. Maybe he's gonna be even more Wes Anderson in his next movie. I don't know, but so far this is the most Wes Anderson thing to ever exist on Earth. The French Dispatch, an anthology movie, basically 3 short stories packed together. All 3 of them very colorful, full of personality, and just having a lot of style and just very, very entertaining. And while I'm not a huge fan of anthology films because I like a very consistent narrative, let's move on to number 13. This movie is released in 2020, but after some thinking, I really had to put some 2020 movies in this list. So, pay no mind. Pieces of a Woman by Montruzzo Cornell. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, this is a movie released in 2020, but I'm including it in this list. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm stuttering. But this is a brutal story, an emotional, gut-wrenching story. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but it is about dealing with loss, dealing with grief. And the movie does it so well, so realistically, so grippingly, so subtly, with amazing performances. Wow, absolutely amazing performances. I'm actually a little sad that she didn't win Best Actress, and by she I mean Vanessa Kirby. But yeah, great directing as well. So there's that. All right, at number 12, we have one of the biggest and most talked about releases of the year, and that is, of course, Dune by Denis Villeneuve. And yes, originally I rated Dune very high in my video, 8.8, and that still stands. I still think Dune is an 8 out of 10. I don't think it is as great as some people say it is, nor is it as bad as some people say it is. It is surely not the very straightforward and fantastical sci-fi that a lot of people are expecting, and Dune is supposed to be like that, actually. Dune is supposed to be a very boring and overly detailed political intergalactic sci-fi with a lot of unlikable characters. And I think Denis Villeneuve's style fits this very, very well with his poignancy and poetry. I like the score, even though at first I wasn't a huge fan of it, but the atmospheric quality adds to the score, actually. And it is gorgeous. It is drop dead gorgeous. It has to get nominated for Best Cinematography, if not win. But of course, the movie has some competition as well. And yeah, I'm not gonna put it in the top 10 mainly because I think it's not that great. Like now when I'm looking back, there aren't a lot of really memorable scenes. But I'm really looking forward to part 2, and part 2 has a huge chance of being in my top 10 if it continues this quality. At number 11, God, I wish this is in the top 10. I wish, but it is Spencer by biopic master Pablo Larraín. Pablo Larraín. And Spencer is a biopic about Princess Diana. And at first I didn't think much of it, but wow, this movie is way more beautiful than I thought it is. It is visually stimulating. The colors are pastel, but they are absolutely well arranged. Kristen Stewart breaks her stigma with a posh, royal accent as Princess Diana, and great performance as well. It took a little time to get used to, but it is amazing. And the star of the show, actually, is Johnny Greenwood's unexpectedly jazzy score. I love jazz, and Johnny Greenwood is one of my favorite film composers of all times, so this is a total treat. And I also really like the premise of this movie. It is almost like a psychological drama, actually. So, very interesting. Kind of wish it's in the top 10. All right, top 10. Number 10 is a movie that's quite difficult for me to put in number 10 because when I first watched this movie, I was like, what the fuck? You know which movie I'm talking about. Titane by French director Julia Ducournau. So Julia Ducournau, even though her filmography isn't large or anything, I think we all know what kind of movie she makes. Fucked up movies. Last movie she made was Grave, Grave, or Raw, which is a very disgusting and edgy cannibalist movie. And Titane is less disgusting, actually just as disgusting, but more weird and awkward. At times it is funny, at times it is simply fucked up. But I think one of the reasons why a lot of people hate this movie, and one of the reasons why this movie is so polarizing, is because it makes no sense. At first, it feels like it makes some sense, but then about 20 minutes into the movie, you realize that nothing makes sense, and you just kind of have to roll with it and sort of appreciate the subtext of the movie, the subtleties, and that is something that took time for me to get, and I'm sure it will take a lot of time for people to get as well. What I have to say is that a lot of the scenes are really memorable, very visceral, and I really like the performances. The body horror has a very special edge to it. It isn't just plain gratuitous body horror. There is a purpose in all of those. And so it is a very strange one. Palme d'Or winner. What can I say? Number 9. I'm so happy about this entry. Oh my god, I'm a happy boy. I'm so happy about it. And that is, of course, a movie from Hong Kong. And that is 第一期, or in English, Limbo, by Macanese director Zhang Bosui, Soy Cheng. And yeah, I think one of the reasons why I love this movie so much is because I watched it alone in a cinema all by myself, and I haven't done that until I watched this movie. And also another reason why is that 2021 is a very critical year for Hong Kong culture because Hong Kong culture is being stripped away as of now because of its very dire political situation. So to see a good Hong Kong film brings me so much joy because so much Hong Kong movies and so much Hong Kong music as of now is still very mediocre and is still struggling to find its own style and find its own place in the international market. And Limbo, I think, does the trick. It is legitimately great. This is easily one of the ballsiest films the Hong Kong film industry has ever put out in years at least. It is a black and white neo-noir. It is trashy, disgusting, gross, sweaty, full of sewage and mud. It is extremely anxiety-inducing, very intense, lots of very long action scenes that just go on and on and on. And yeah, it's not flawless. The dialogue and the music certainly need some work, but I think as a film that came out of Hong Kong, this is incredibly impressive, and I'm really happy that I watched it. I'm very happy. Number 8, I'm giving it to a movie that I recently watched, and that is Red Rocket by Sean Baker. Red Rocket is comedy drama about an ex-porn star trying to rebuild his life in a small town in Texas. And at first glance, it seems like not a very great film because not a lot happens in this movie. But the more you look into it, the more you realize that this is more than just a character study. As a character study, it works. Our main character here, Mikey, very well, brilliantly played by Simon Rex, is a charismatic but equal parts slimy and narcissistic person. But also, this movie is a commentary on American culture and specifically Texan culture, because there are tons of scenes in this movie where we see things that don't normally happen, to me at least, because I'm from Hong Kong. I'm a Hong Konger, and I never see shit like this happen. Like underage girls literally passing from boy to boy, uh, ex porn stars conning people into making porn, and kids with such terrible parents. And yeah, every single character here sucks. Every single character is bad. They're all hateable, other than one, even though he still sucks. But Lonnie, justice for Lonnie. Okay, number 7, I am giving it to the very anticipated A24 medieval fantasy film, The Green Knight, by, shoot, I forgot David Lowery, right. So The Green Knight is a movie that I think is very special, because usually when a director puts so much effort and passion into a medieval fantasy piece, I just love it. Like, I love medieval fantasy, and an art house indie medieval fantasy film just scratch that itch. It just fulfills one of my dream movies. I love shit like that. And yeah, it is quite great. Dev Patel is amazing. First of all, the visual effects is amazing, but on top of that, this movie is gorgeous. This movie is toe to toe competition with Dune. Toe to toe. Even though I'm very certain that it won't even get a Best Cinematography nom, because the Oscars hate indie films, but this is honestly genuinely amazing. There's a very grand and poetic, magical feel to it. In fact, this whole film is expanded upon a poem, and it is just so beautifully expanded that way. Surely it is not a flawless film, but I still really appreciate it for what it is, and I really, really enjoy it. All right, number 6, it is a film from 2020 again, which means that if you remove this from the list, Spencer will end up in the top 10. But this is The Father by Florian Zeller. And this is a movie about a person suffering from dementia, played by Anthony Hopkins. And wow, what a brilliant performance! Gut-wrenching, emotional performance by Anthony Hopkins, totally deserving of that Oscar. And it is a movie about dementia in the perspective of the person suffering from dementia. And it is interesting and unfortunately entertaining, but equal parts depressing and moving. And I just really, really love that. It is endlessly rewatchable, even though it has a really small set. It's still really, really solid. Great performances, great dialogues. Top 5, man, you have no idea how difficult it is to make the top 5. But at number 5, we have a movie that I just finished watching like an hour ago. Come On, Come On by Mike Mills. This is the kind of movie that really warms you up and make you feel whole as a person after you finish watching it. The movie is in black and white, and it is about Joaquin Phoenix's character bonding with his nephew, and that is basically the whole film. Nothing all that fancy, kind of straightforward, but there's a lot of humanity in it that is just really gorgeous. It's just real earnest and down to earth. There are a lot of legit real life unscripted interviews with children, which is very beautiful. And I'm sure I would appreciate this movie more if I was a parent. The child performance here is amazing. It's been a long time since I've seen a kid play a character this well, and he's supposed to be 9 years old in this movie. Why the hell is he so damn good at acting in this movie? It makes no sense. Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, and the cinematography is unexpectedly good. Even though it's completely in black and white, in modern day, it still looks really freaking great. All right, Number 4, we have the very new Licorice Pizza by legendary Paul Thomas Anderson, PTA, my man's. Licorice Pizza is it's basically PTA's version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's a very chill, slow-paced hangout kind of film that takes place in the 70s. Lots of needle drops, lots of fun dialogues, and not a lot happens. Lots of character ensemble, which is great. Great vibes, amazing directing, great cinematography, as expected of PTA, who is a very experienced filmmaker at this point, who has classics under his belt. And Licorice Pizza may be another one added to his belt of great, awesome movies. And yeah, I mean, we got a lot of big names in this movie, but the two main characters are played by Alana Haim and like Dustin Hoffman's son, which is weird. If you think about it, on paper, it makes no sense. There's one bit in the film that is a little bit racist, but otherwise, this is a great film, great craftsmanship. Number 3, Drive My Car by Hamaguchi Ryusuke. Drive My Car is a 3-hour-long meditative dialogue-driven Japanese film, and it is expanded upon a short story written by Nobel Prize nominee Murakami Haruki, also by the same name, Drive My Car. Yeah, I never thought I would enjoy it, but I actually legitimately do enjoy this movie. And I think that's partially because I watched this in the cinema, and that just made the experience way more memorable. I feel like if I watched this movie on my laptop, I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. But because I watched it in a cinema, it feels way more grand and full of life. And that's exactly what this film is about, actually. It is about life, and it is about people. This movie treats people like puzzles, like art pieces. They're all very subtle, very restrained, but also very realistic. You can really see these characters being in real life. And the movie really takes its time to build relationships and build character. And once the movie reaches its emotional climax, it feels really climactic. It feels earned. And I think that's what's most important about Drive My Car is that it gets emotional and it gets really psychological and personal, deep, complex, but it is earned. And it doesn't do that by, showing how weird and complicated these people are. These people are people after all. And this movie totally respects that and really indulges upon that in the most realistic but equal parts powerful way possible. And that is amazing. That is amazing. Drive My Car, again, very long. It's not for everybody, but I enjoy it. I actually somehow enjoy it. So there we are. It has to win Best Foreign Film, please. If this doesn't win Best Foreign Film, Titane, please. All right, number 2. Judas and the Black Messiah, directed by Shaka King. Yes, this is film released earlier this in 2021, and I absolutely adore it. I think this is if I had to make a top 100 favorite films I've ever seen, this would be in the top 100. It is just that freaking great. It is very interesting look at African American history in the USA, particularly in the 70s with the Black Panthers, and it doesn't only focus on, racial injustice and broken police system. Tons of films have explored that already, but this one focuses more on the history, and it actually successfully makes it so damn interesting and so full of style. The music is great, the directing is great, the cinematography is great. Daniel Kaluuya is amazing, and Lakeith Stanfield is great in this movie as well. And this movie isn't just about racism. It is more than that. It is beyond that. It is about the people. It is about power struggle and oppression. And I friggin' love that stuff. Also, it is an emotional roller coaster. It is full of ups and downs, and it's all done with so much style. It is rewatchable. I would love to rewatch this movie when I have the time. And yeah, just amazing. It's just a shame that it didn't get enough Oscars because it totally deserved more Oscars than this. And yeah, number one, drum roll please. You're gonna think I'm crazy. You're gonna think I'm crazy because this movie is not on anyone's list. Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0, Thrice Upon a Time. Now, yeah, I've watched a lot of top 10 favorite movies of 2021 lists on YouTube, and multiple websites have posted their favorite movies of 2021 list, but none of them, pretty much none of them, have even included this movie because they're not cultured enough. But this, I'm telling you, this is the best movie of 2021, and that is very bold of me to claim. That is very ambitious as well. I mean, Evangelion is one of the most influential and one of the most seminal animes of all times, of history. And it is not just some very good anime. This is a life-changing anime that is incredibly powerful and beyond a lot of people's understanding. I mean, a lot of people walk out of Evangelion not understanding it at all. It is so much more than just robot killers and angels and demons. It is also simultaneously about life and psychology and what it means to be human. It is a transcendent anime. It is also as abstract and as art house as it can be. I mean, the art house fandom letterbox also real love Evangelion, so you see what I'm getting at. But moreover, I think to end an anime is extremely difficult. Half of the greatest animes of all times do not have a good ending, because to end off something this extravagant and this bold and this grandiose and this ambitious and make it satisfying somehow is very difficult. And Hideaki Anno, or Anno Hideaki, pretty much took his time. I mean, it's been like 25 years. I think even more than that. It's been 25 years since Evangelion came out, and ever since we have the end of Evangelion, we have 1.1, 2.2, 3.3, and it just doesn't seem to end. There's always more to it, because ending this series, ending this franchise would mean so much. It would be throwing everything away. So to do that, it must be the grandest and most beautiful and most powerful ending. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And it actually did. Yes, Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0. Great theme song by Utada Hikaru, and that song became my number 5 favorite song of the year as well. But also, I just really appreciate how the franchise doesn't just end it on a really sad, bittersweet note, which is great. There are bad endings, and then there are good endings, and then there are legendary endings. Evangelion's ending is legendary. It is legendary. Good endings include bittersweet endings where characters win some and lose some, and it leaves a lasting impact. It makes you feel depressed and hollow, but this is even more beyond that. This ending makes you feel hopeful. It is even stronger than that. It erases, it covers the sadness and the pain with a new layer of hope. If any other story or any other anime pulls off an ending like this, it just doesn't work as well as Evangelion. Only Evangelion can hold up such a pretty ending full of sunshine and rainbows and actually make it work because of how much weight and ambition it carries. So for an anime this powerful, and for a director this underrated, Hideaki Anno, I think putting Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 as number one is deserved. So I'm gonna stop here. I gotta go to bed. What are your favorite films of 2021? Comments below, let me know, and expect a few movie reviews coming up next very soon after a few other videos.